My name is Susanne Kogut. I'm the executive director of the Charlottesville-Albermale SPCA. If there's anyone in this room that thinks, well, gosh, I've not really been in animal welfare that long, I can never do this. Before I got involved, I was not in animal welfare. I did a little bit of animal rescue for about a year and a half. And I was a lawyer, corporate securities lawyer, and I worked for Capital One, the what's in your wallet commercials. And I basically just went to conferences, read, listened to what people said, and said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I sent out a bunch of resumes to everyone, and I kept getting response after response that said, what did it say? You have no experience, we're not going to hire you. Because, of course, I wanted the top position. I didn't want anything else, right? I wanted to be the executive director. And finally, someone hired me, thank God. So I give the Charlottesville-Albermale SPCA board a lot of credit for doing that, because they really hired someone that really didn't have anything and then said, hey, I'm coming here and we're going to go no kill. And they were an open admission shelter, they were a pound, and their entire staff told them I was crazy and that wasn't going to happen. And when I interviewed with staff people, they told me I was crazy and that wasn't going to happen. And yet they still hired me. So I give them a lot of credit for doing that. The board actually said, well, the only thing that we want you to do, and when you get into this, is you can go ahead and do that, try to go no kill, but just don't tell anyone. Because it's such a controversial term, and everyone's going to think we're going to hoard animals and everything, so just do it, but don't tell them. And I said, well, you're taking, and actually, we want you to raise a lot of money, too. And I said, except, you want to take the key thing to raising money away from me, and it's to say no kill, but then you want me to accomplish it without that key thing. And, one of the things I'll say, we talk about excuses, and when I look at the Richmond SPCA, a lot of times when people look at what they've accomplished, everyone says, oh, the Richmond SPCA has so much money. Well, we can't do that in our community because they have so much money. Well, guess what? That was a lot of hard work to get that money. That's part of going no-kill. You can't sort of separate that out and say, I'm going to do all these things, but I'm never going to try to raise money. You've got to actually put that as one of the things in your pot that you're going to do, because money actually does help. It's just not everything. So it can't be your excuse for not doing it. Start to do it. There's a lot of things that people can do with not a lot of money. So there's a lot of things that you can do, and the more you start doing, the more people will come on board and bring money to your organization. So no pun intended, but we're going to first start off with an exercise. If anyone's ran a marathon, raise your hand. Congratulations, I'm very envious of you. I've always wanted to run a marathon, but I've never run a marathon. And I'm not even sure I really will. And I can tell you my excuses, and actually, my excuses right now are, I don't have any time. I used to actually be in good shape, and I used to run. I'm in horrible shape right now. And there's just really, I have to focus on work. I don't have enough time to do it. And and I'm different than most people too. I have asthma, so it's going to be, of course, impossible for me to run a marathon. And the truth of the matter is there's only one reason that I'm not running a marathon. Because I don't have the desire, the passion, and the determination to do it. Because, now Rich isn't here, but if Rich called me up tomorrow and said, Susanne Kogut, I will give the Charlottesville-Albermale SPCA $5 million to help animals if the executive director runs a marathon. Guess what? I will be running a marathon. Or actually hiring someone else to be the executive director to run the marathon. But I'll get it done. So there's really, really only one excuse. I'm not determined enough, and I don't have the passion to do it. In 2005, when I came to the Charlottesville-Albermale SPCA, we were out of shape. We were the pound. We had the contract with the city and our county. We took in 5,000 animals. We were killing 53% of the cats. Actually did pretty well on dogs. The staff didn't like me, the staff didn't like the volunteers didn't like staff, and the volunteers, well, it was still open as far as what they thought about me. That time would tell. You know, everything else. Limited hours, poor customer service. I came in to interview and no one even said hello. Staff up there and good morning? No, none of that. Forget that. And we were judgmental and we had financial issues. And again, so this is what we started and we weren't in shape. What I'm going to talk about is sort of, I want to say, a strategy of, it's a strategy that's not for the faint of heart, because it's going to be just going forth and going very quickly and saying, we're going to go no kill, and everyone else has done it, and here's these programs, and so we're going to do it. And it is called the Just Do It strategy. Just do it. When you hear about these programs, stop talking about what you're not going to do. So what's it? Now, I'm going to ditto everything. I agree with everything that Robin said, getting bored, your board on, your staff, and everything else. And we'll talk a little bit about it. But not, I'm going to talk about some other things. You have to have accessible adoption hours. You have to have a foster care program. And I don't care whether you're limited or open admission, you've got to have a really great foster care program, and we'll talk about that. Good customer service, adoption marketing, and an active media presence, and you have to market till you can't market anymore. Optimal animal care and operational efficiencies, spay, neuter, including TNR, and medical care and vaccines. Now, most of what we're going to talk about here is going to be foster care, customer service, and marketing. And a lot of those things don't take a lot of money, and in fact, foster care will save you money. Spay, neuter, and TNR is a presentation on its own, and I'm not going to go into it. And there's a lot of other things like behavior modification, behavior evaluations, everything else. But I mean, it's impossible to talk about all that in just 30 minutes. One of the things I'm going to say, with accessible hours, I always like the fact that, especially, you're going to come, people will open, and this will happen at our organization, we'll open, we'll have these days where we're closed, except for cleaning the animals and taking in strays, and we'll be staffed those days, but we're closed to the public. Well, that's just silly. Why would you be open to the public to take in animals, but not be open to the public that wants to take them out and adopt them? So, and then the other excuse I always hear is, well, we just don't have the money. We didn't put any more money into changing our hours. We just did them differently. So if instead of being open maybe from 11 to 4, we moved our open hours and we had people come in later. You can just clean beforehand. So you've got to be open after work hours on weekends and holidays. Now, I'm not horrible. I don't make everyone work on Christmas Day and every single holiday. We take a few. But July 4th, we're there adopting out animals. New Year's Day, we're there adopting out animals. So, you gotta, and everyone's gonna be different, but yeah, we stay open as much as we can. So why should you, believe that you can do it? Well, because other communities have done it. And, and again, I'm assuming that everyone does have the passion to save lives because you're here. And the other thing is, set goals. We'll talk about some of ours, but set goals that are audacious. That's a little puppy. And I don't know if you can tell, but that's actually not one of the small size tennis balls. It's one of those basketball sized tennis balls. So that puppy's goal was to get his mouth around that big old tennis ball. I didn't want to reduce euthanasia 10%. I wanted to go no kill tomorrow. Now, set big goals so you can really, really stretch yourself. Couple of basic principles. And Robin's already talked about a lot of these. But focus on the positive stuff. Focus on what you can do. And in that vein, eliminate the I can't because and it will not work because. And when I first started, that's all I could get from our staff that was there at the time. Well, why don't we do this? Well, we can't because. Well, how about if we did this instead? Well, that won't work because. Just take those out of your vocabulary. Say you're not allowed to talk about what you can't do. Let's talk about what we can do. So if we want to accomplish X, stop talking about the 500 reasons why we can't, and what, even if there's only 2 or 3, what are the things that we can do to move forward to accomplish that? Let go of the past. It didn't work in the past. That past is the past. Let's move forward. We're a place of solutions, not excuses. And actually, we've come up this year, we have our SPCA resolutions, and all of our staff have agreed to these at the beginning of the year, and it's the top 10 things that we're always going to focus on. And some of it is just, you know, we're going to help one another, you know, staff building teamwork among staff. Some of it is we're going to give a hearty thanks to everyone that comes in and donates. And the difference between a hearty thanks we talk about and a regular thanks is, well, there's actually stages, right? Someone comes in to donate something, and you just say, oh, you can put it over there. That's no. You know, thank you, you can just put it over there. No. Thank you, can I help you? And then take the stuff, put it over there. Still not even good enough. We want to go up there and say, thank you so much. Do you know how much this is going to help the animals? Let me take that for you. Let me put it over there. And we sit there and we watch, and every staff meeting that we have, we try to bring out some of the things that our staff has done that has been one of our resolutions, and we reward people at staff meetings for it. But it's always, always, always going the extra mile. Policies versus guidelines. This makes people uncomfortable, I think, sometimes. I'm not a big fan of policies because what I've seen with policies is they're generally used to tell people why you can't help them, and they're generally used to kill more animals. So we have guidelines. So when someone comes up and they want to do X, we don't say, oh, I'm sorry, no, you can't do X because it's against our policy. The minute you say policy, it puts someone on the defensive. For instance, we used to have, when I first started, a thing where people could come in and put a hold on an animal and decide really whether in the next 24 to 48 hours they wanted to take home that animal. You know, we are an open admission shelter. We got 20, 40 animals maybe coming in the door every day, and giving someone the opportunity to think about it for 48 hours. I'm sorry, we just couldn't do that. So we could tell them, and this is the difference. When, you know, some staff were saying, I'm sorry, they'll come in to adopt and want to put a hold on it, and they were saying, oh, sorry, we've changed our policy, so we can't do that anymore. And then everyone is up in arms. What do you mean? That's a stupid policy. I used to be able to do that. And instead, we told them why we did it. We said, well, we changed that policy, or we didn't even say policy. We said we no longer can put holds on animals because guess what? We're trying to save them all. And we don't want to have to euthanize an animal because of space. So we understand that you really want to do that. Unfortunately, right now, you know, if you want to make that decision, you have to take that animal home now. Because we have animals and we don't want to have to euthanize animals. And you know what? People are like, oh, cool. You know, we don't want you to kill an animal just because I've got to go decide for 48 hours. So they were really on board with it. The other thing that we have guidelines for is because we had so many policies that we were changing on a daily, like we would do something for maybe a couple weeks sometimes, and then figure out it didn't work and we were changing it again. Or we were making so many exceptions, and the staff became very uncomfortable. They said, every time you put a policy into place, all we do is have an exception after exception, and I can't keep up with it. So we have guidelines. We have guidelines of what is a good, you know, focus to follow to help us deal with the public and explain to the public why we do things, but also to make sure it doesn't prevent us from adopting animals. Our atmosphere of empowerment, that's one of our resolutions. We want the staff to feel empowered. We want the staff to feel that they are part of increasing adoptions. And so we go out of our way to, you know, recognize great work by the staff and what they've done. Going back to our solutions and no excuses, one time we were in our staff meeting and we had a little competition going with the front desk. They sort of came up with this as far as who could do more adoptions. And so we recognized the 2 people that did a lot of adoptions that week. And then there was a staff member that was sitting there and she's like, well, they did the adoptions because this, and I had to do this. And I just stopped and I said, hey, everyone, what's our resolutions? They're like, solutions, not excuses. You know, and we said, you know, you weren't at the desk. You could have helped people find animals. Why didn't you do that? And if you keep people focused on it, they feel empowered to increase the adoptions and to save animals with you. Keep it moving, change things up, do things different. Once you do the same thing over and over and over again, it gets boring, so you got to change it up. And as Robin talked about, a spirit of determination. There are going to be times when, just like I'm sure in a marathon, I'm assuming since I haven't run one, that you want to give up, that you're exhausted, and then you come up to a hill that you think you can't get up anymore. That happens on a daily basis. And you just have to be determined to get out of bed, and when you get into work and that hill's there when you think you have nothing left, you have to be determined to keep going and try to figure out what works to help you overcome a challenge. Robin talked about who will be on your bus. I love Jim Collins. He wrote Good to Great. He first looked at the business sector, but then he looked at the nonprofit world to see if those same principles applied. One of the things that I thought was very interesting in looking at the nonprofit world, he said, you know, a key factor is it's not how much you pay people in the nonprofit world, but who you have on your bus. And I love his next quote, and I generally don't like to read, but this is just so beautiful. Those who are productively neurotic, self-motivated, self-disciplined, who wake up every day compulsively driven to do the best they can simply because it's part of their DNA. Those are the people you want on your bus. The more of those you get on your bus, the quicker your bus is going to go. It's going to break all speed limits. So those are the people you want to get on your bus. And what's equally important is getting the wrong people off your bus as quickly as possible. And I'll give you a quick example of that. I've got a lot of stories. But one time when we first got started, I think I'd only been there a month, and we were going to do a big adoption event, and we had never had anything. We had a beautiful building, but we never had anything like this before. And, you know, we're all dressed up, everyone's doing things, and we were packed. We were doing tons of adoptions like we never did. And I walked up to some people that worked in our clinic in our intake area, and I was like, wow, look at all the adoptions. Isn't this great? Isn't this fun? And they were just sort of sitting there, not doing a darn thing, by the way, leaning on the chair, going, well, do you know how many animals we took in today? I'm like, those people, no matter what we did, how great things were only going to focus on the negative. Those people needed to get off the bus, and they needed to get off quickly so we can bring more compulsively driven, neurotic people on the bus. That would be me. Neurotic, definitely. Okay, so foster care. Now I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the three things I said are really important and sometimes really don't cost a lot of money and sometimes save you money. Foster care is essential. So we all know the reasons why foster care is essential, right? Go ahead, shout them out. Limited space. Anything else? Thank you. Limited staff and resources. Socialization's in there, don't worry, I'm getting there. Anyone else? No, everyone's shy this morning. Not enough coffee. Recover from medical conditions. Animal needs socialization. Thank you, yep. Underage animals need extra TLC. But really the number one reason you need foster care is because space. And I don't care if you're a rescue group or if you're a limited admission shelter or if you're an open admission shelter. Because if you're a rescue group and a limited admission shelter and you have more foster care so you can take more animals away from the open admission shelter, you will save more animals. So it really doesn't matter. You need more foster care. And the thing that I think people underestimate about foster care is these will be some of your biggest supporters and advocates in the community. They are unbelievable because they know, because those animals are in their house, and they can't imagine those animals being dead or any of them in the shelter not going into foster care and having to be euthanized because you don't have enough foster parents. The more, this sort of, what is it, field of dreams, is that what it, build it and they will come? That's what foster care is all about. So here's just a quick example of space. This is in 2007. This was our incoming, the white lines are what's incoming, the grays outgoing. If we don't have a foster care program, the gap is euthanized because we didn't have the place to put them, right? And that's after we expanded space and became very creative. There's still going to be a gap. So that's what's happening at your local shelter, even if you're a limited admission or a rescue group. You need more space, especially obviously in the summer and during kitten season. So when I started, these are number of animals. This is our total animals that were coming in, and this is just dogs and cats. This doesn't include bunnies and everything else like that. We put some bunnies in foster care, but not a huge amount. But we had 300 animals that had gone into foster care. 300 animals, not 300 foster parents, but 300 animals during the year had gone into foster care. And do most people think that's pretty good? No. Okay, good, I'm glad. And when I said, we also had a policy called our kitten policy. And what our kitten policy said at the time was we will kill all kittens under 5 weeks of age. Written policy. And it was actually well thought out because, of course, we had limited foster parents. And so if we just put the ones that needed 2 weeks in foster care in, we could save more kittens overall. And I said, well, why don't we get more foster parents? Oh, we can't. That's impossible. We can't do that. And I said, well, why don't we try? Well, you can try, but it won't work because. And then they also said that even if we did get them, they would bring them back and we wouldn't be able to adopt them out anyway, so we'd have to euthanize them anyway. So I'm like, well, we're clearly not going to euthanize animals that have been in a foster care, unless there's medical or something else. I said, well, why don't we change our kitten policy and just say, if we can't find a foster home and we can't do things, then we'll go ahead and kill them. Well, you can do that, but it's not going to work anyways. And then what's going to happen because you're going to put all your young ones in foster care and now these other ones? I said, well, you know what, we're going to try. Anyone want to guess what our next number was? So we went from 300 animals into foster care. What do we think, 50% increase? Good? Would a 50% increase be good if you were doing a plan? 100% increase be good? That was a lot, so of course we can't do any more, right? We've already tripled it. It would be impossible to do any more, right? And the differences between instances and animals in foster care. Animals in foster care, say I take a litter of kittens. If I take a litter of kittens into foster care and then they come back to the SPCA for something and then go to a new foster parent, that would be a new instance. So, maybe they came back and they still weren't ready. 2007, 2008. Our goal this year is actually to get that number, and some of that is because our intake actually went down, and that's from spay neuter and TNR and our adoption, our intake counseling services. But our goal this year, now our staff is right on board. They're like, well, let's put 2,000 animals into foster care this year. I'm like, way to go. Customer service. We'll talk quickly because I got 10 minutes. Again, this is going the extra mile. When someone walks in, obviously we're going to say, hi, how are you doing? Can I help you? And then going the extra mile. Oh, we're looking for a dog or a cat. Oh, go that way or go that way. No, go help them. Go find them one. Don't be judgmental with adoption policies. You can guide people, but at the end of the day, it has to be their decision, not your decision about what animal they should have. The other thing I would say is, make sure you keep an open mind. I have a tendency when someone walks in the door, maybe you're going to make a quick judgment. Don't do that. Listen, just stop yourself from talking sometime and just wait and listen to them and then respond, because sometimes you can hear a lot from people. One of my favorite things that our staff did when we first started is every time they pick up an application, they look through and they immediately look for the negative thing. Let's go ask them about this. Instead of just saying, number one, thank you for filling out the application. I'm so excited to hear you're interested in adopting Sam. And just have a conversation, not necessarily go look for what the reason is that they can't adopt. I've been denied adoption from rescue groups. I had and I love this one, I had a partner that I worked at in a law firm who's actually called back by the Treasury recently to come up with that whole auto loan package. Great adopter. Contacted Doberman Rescue. He had to write a and I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone. He had to write a 5-page essay about how he was going to work with the dog and different questions that they had. 5-page essays, which he actually did. Now I'm thinking by the time he writes the 5-page essays, there's probably Dobermans across the country that are being euthanized that you could actually go get and save while he's writing his 5-page essay. But he did it. He wrote his 5-page essay. And you know what? Guess what? No one ever called him back. That is really shameful. They ended up going to Greyhound Rescue, and I said, just put me down as a reference. They'll at least call me, and they ended up getting a Greyhound. One of the things, and we're going to talk a lot about this, not too much since I only have 10 minutes, or less than 10 minutes, but it's the never-ending world of marketing. That everywhere you can possibly get your information out, you have to. Press releases are not that difficult. Don't be afraid of them. Go online, press release 101's there, copy other people's format. They're not that difficult to do. The more creative you are, the more likely a TV or a news station is going to follow your story. So if you come up with something fun, the radio stations in our area are like, man, we love the stuff you put out because it's so interesting, it's so much fun. They love for us to come out and talk about it. Always include great pictures. It's what directs people's attention. If you don't have the media option in your area, go approach sort of neighborhood associations, Rotary Club, anyone that puts out any type of document. Some of the school programs will let you do it and put different articles, and whether you need foster parents or whatever. Now we have, the social media, blogs, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter is great. Our news stations follow us on Twitter, and they call us up and say, hey, I heard you tweeted this about this story. Can we come down and do the story? So it's amazing. A Domino's Pizza, contact them if they're in your area. They'll put flyers. If you just do flyers, they'll put them on the box, and they'll deliver them when they do the pizzas. We get 2,000 pizzas a week are delivered in our area, so we provide the flyers, and they just distribute them around town. So I'm going to do a couple examples of some of our marketing. This is a foster postcard that we have, and we always have it. It gets people's, that's what you want to get people's attention. The back is, we provide the pets, you provide the love, are you smitten with kittens? And we put these all over as many places as we can, and we did a stack of them years ago, and they're still living, and they still get people's attention. These are just basic flyers, but the Barn Cat flyers, the interesting thing is we went to Tractor Supply and asked them if they would put our Barn Cat flyers in all of their bags. And they said yes, and then we just put them around all the different farm areas, and that was how we got some of our feral cats adopted as barn cats. Pernia Pantops, quick story, no excuses, just solutions. One of our board members wanted additional space, so she went and talked to all the realtors around town. They all said, no, this was open, vacant space. No, you can't use it, you can't use it. And she went in and she said, she walked into this guy's office. He goes, looks at her and he says, didn't I just talk to you? And she goes, yes, you did. You just spoke to me on the phone. But you told me, no, I couldn't have the space, and I wanted to see if I came in here and cried if you would still say no. He gave her the space, free space for like a year and a half, 2 years. We're now renting space. It's in a retail center. It's an off-site adoption satellite. For 2 years, it was all volunteer run. We now have one staff member there, and we do great adoptions there. And now that we're paying rent, we also have a donor that paid for the rent and actually did all the renovations and paid for all the cages. These are just some examples of adoption events. They don't take, a face painter, she donated her time, have a face painter, kids will come. And then we just had used different decorations and things like that. That was a Hawaiian adopt-a-thon, obviously Halloween down here. We have our staff dress up a lot. It's a cheap way to get festive, create a festive environment. It was a hidden treasure adopt-a-thon, find your hidden treasure at the SPCA, and then we did these little scavenger hunt things for kids. That's the cat's pajama party. We did a couple kitten showers, and they were losing their pizzazz, and so we did a cat's pajama party. We try to think of what you would do at pajama parties. I don't know. We had one of the hairdressers come in and do kids' cuts for free. This was a recent one, the Mad Catter Tea Party. If you went and brought in your Alice in Wonderland ticket stub, you got a free adoption. We also had the pin the grin on the Cheshire Cat. Again, staff dressed up, and I have no shame when it comes to adoptions. That would be me dressed up as the Mad Hatter. I will do anything to increase adoptions and raise money. Just some adoption specials, we'll go through them. Back to school special, own your own heavyweight champion. We did all the fat cat adoption specials, and that was a new one. Winter Olympics, we did it online where people would get the how many Olympics, and this is what your discount is based on how many medals the USA won. One of the things that we have a huge problem in our area is we have a lot of hounds. So in January, we celebrated Elvis's birthday with the Hound Dog special. That still wasn't enough. So we put posters all over the SPCA, and we talked about how, the hound dogs at our SPCA really prefer to be on the couch. This is from previous adopters. That still wasn't enough. So we issued a press release, which was picked up, that we talked about how our hunting dogs are not really hunting dogs, they're hunting dog dropouts, and they're just hunting for a spot on the couch, and please come adopt them as pets. And you know what, we have to keep still doing this with hounds, because we still have a lot of hounds, but that's a matter of, again, never giving up, not just saying, oh, well, we have a lot of hounds, so we're not going to do it. No, it just means you need to go the extra mile and keep going. This is just we use our blog, and this just was telling a story about a foster family that took care of this abused pit bull. She was beaten, and we had surgery on her leg, and they fostered her. Some of our adopters use our blogs and tell about their wonderful stories. We're big with Facebook. We think Facebook is a great networking tool. We don't necessarily find it good as far as promoting adoptions, but necessarily building community support. And sometimes we'll put flyers out there, and people will take them and distribute them out around town, and they will just download them off of Facebook. We always give people adoption events, and one of the things that's really been interesting about Facebook is we actually have more fans than the local TV news stations and radio stations, and we have a lot of local businesses coming to us to want to do things, so we'll post on our Facebook and link to their page so they can increase their fans. We had one groomer that said he'll groom 3 dogs a week for us, or actually 3 animals, so we send dogs and cats, and then we just put them up on Facebook, and then we link to his site and stuff. So we actually have people coming to us because of it. We have a thrift store. We also use it for our rummage store. And you can't see this picture there, but it's 2 dogs at the counter. And we said after an extensive search, meet our newest cashiers hired at the SPCA rummage store. If you have more difficult to adopt animals, this is, oldies but goodies. Senior pets still rock between naps. Still have a lot of senior hounds, and we had one of our local the weekly papers that you have, a lot of college students use them, but just are all around town for free. One of our volunteers works there, and she created these ads, and anytime there's space, she puts these wanted ads, and they're our top 10 or top 5 cats and top 5 dogs that we run, and she runs them all the time. She also runs free ads for volunteers and fosters for us. Okay, so video is really good, and hopefully this will come out right. Do we have audio or no? Woohoo! This is how you can market the more difficult. Now, when you look at her, you're saying, like, she's really not a difficult to adopt dog. She's a little Shih Tzu. But she came into us at around 3-4 months old, and she was hit by a car. She looked like crap. She did not look like this, sorry. And she had a stick hanging out her spine. It had injured her spinal cord. For a long time, we weren't sure she was going to live, but we stuck with her. She did live, but then we realized she was going to be paralyzed from the hips down. We weren't really sure what to do. It's just that she had this incredible love of life. Even just sitting in her cage, she always greeted you. And I said, well, I'm going to take her home and see how she does and see whether someone could actually care for her and she could have a good quality of life. So this is it. You can use video to put online for people to see. That's my chow, my 2 pit bulls. From the minute I put her down, she took over my household. 2 pit bulls, a chow, and 2 collie mixes. You can leave the music on, that's okay. This is the best part. Keep the music. She's nuts. I just love her. Is she not the cutest thing? She got adopted to a home where the woman had a bunch of special needs dogs. She had already had a cart that would fit her. She came to our SPCA with outfits and just cried when she saw her and started putting a bathing suit on her. I don't know. But it was a great home, and that's all that mattered. Okay, so quick recap, no excuses. I especially don't want to hear the too many animals, not enough homes. Lynn already showed you the slides. There's plenty of homes. They just need to get them from us, and we need to convince them of that. Focus on the positive. Stop talking about what you can't do, and what a waste of time and energy, and start talking about what you can do. Focus on solutions. Adapt them to your community. When we look at other communities that are doing better than us, we never go and say, well, Bonnie in Nevada can do that because her community has X, Y, and Z. What we do is pick up the phone and say, what the heck are you guys doing, because we want to do it here. Don't discard it, don't excuse it, figure out how you can do it, and if it's not exactly the same way that that community is doing, figure out how to do it in your community. Foster, market, and adopt, grow, learn, and improve. Listen, sometimes it's not going to be pretty. I don't claim to tell you that when we did this and we did it so quickly, it was pretty all the time, but that's okay. I mean, we went from killing 53% cats one year to 33% the next year to only 8 to 10% every year after that. So you can do it, and you just can grow through those sort of more trying times. And just create an animal fun center, you know, a place where people want to come, not people shy away from it. It's the just do it strategy. Do something, and keep going at it. This is just a picture of, you know, some of the experiences, but we want to create a great place for everyone, seniors, kids. One of the things too, I went into this other animal shelter to try to help them and give them some ideas. And the minute I walked in the door, every sign that I saw, it was like the big red stop, you know, do not enter, do not touch, do not. Gosh, I mean, it wasn't a very friendly place. I mean, and even if you have to restrict certain areas, you can do it differently than the big stop sign and the big, you know, don't go in here. If we want to restrict it, we may say, please, you know, if you'd like to see these animals, please ask our staff for help. But that's really going to only be certain areas. Most of the time, people have access to areas, and we want them to be with the animals. If we don't want them to be with the animals, how are they going to adopt the animals? Again, I'm a big Collins fan, and I think I love his quote that says, greatness is not a function of circumstance. It turns out it's largely a matter of conscious choice and discipline. So you have to make the choice to do it, the discipline, and I will add the determination to stay there no matter what, and no matter what challenges you get. I wish you all the best, and I know there's a lot more, but good luck to everyone.